So I'll let each of you take a few seconds to talk about yourselves. This 20 minutes was going to go really fast, but I wanted people to get a chance to see you. And then this group, so you know that everyone in here is an expert in policy, whatever areas they cover. They're all activists. They're very active in their communities, and they're all committed to making the world a better place. So thank you for joining us. Right. Well.
Thank you. And before I start, I want to give a shout out to one of our leaders in Prince George's County, Josephine Parker, who is the head of the SCLC in Prince George's County. Thank you so much for your commitment and always keeping us accountable. To everyone here, I'm Walla Blagay. I'm a council member in Prince George's County, council member at large. And I've been on the council for the last 4 years. And prior to being on the council, I was I'm an attorney, and I represented nurses. Actually, I used to come in this, sit in the press club a lot because right across the street was a DC council where they saw a lot of me advocating for our nurses all over the district here. And I also was had a show Chat with the Lawyer, connecting residents with legal information. So I've been an advocate for a while. And I am running for Congress in Maryland Congressional 5. And one of the reasons why I'm stepping out there. Some people say, you crazy, you on the council, you should just stay on the council. And I thought about that. But the reality is that we are under attack right now. And I know that you all are policy wonks here. You see what's happening. And to be honest, we should be horrified as what's happening. I know one of the things we were supposed to be talking about is the 8A program. I had a virtual town hall last week with the business community, the Maryland Business Clergy Partnership, who has endorsed my campaign. And one of the things we talked about, the speaker said 8A program was never really meant to build wealth, but it built wealth in Prince George's County. It built wealth in Charles County. That was the door opening for a lot of the contractors in our community who look like me to get opportunity. And I was just telling him that while the numbers might not be where they should be, for our community, that was a game changer. You remember Prince George's County was a white suburban. When we talk about Congressman Hoyer announcing his retirement, when he ran in 1981 for Congress, that was mostly a white rural district. It changed into a majority African American district. In fact, the actual Congressional District 5 is now a majority black woman district, which is shocking because it went from one to the next. But a lot of that had to do with the wealth that was built from federal government jobs, where a lot of people got federal government jobs, were able to leave the district, which is my story. I grew up in Washington, D.C., and I was able to, we were able to move to Prince George's County because my dad got a job with Metro, and we were able to move there. But the reality is that was a story for a lot of people that were way wealthier than my family. I represented an area named Woodmore. That is in my district, District 6 that I represented before I became at large. And in that district, you could go to each house and find a lot of people that start off as 8A contractors. And they built their business from that, and now they're no longer 8A. I actually funded, through my office, a nonprofit that used to train people in 8A and how they can move from 8A to getting bigger contracts with the federal government. The reality is that even the bigger houses that have been built, that black wealth that people are able to pass down, generational wealth in the African American community, those were now federal contractors that started at 8A, and now we're seeing that they're wiping that away. Look at the DBE that they're doing. Those opportunities gave the opportunity for African American business owners to be able to bid and get opportunity. Otherwise, they would not, because we are not a country of equality. Let's remember that as we continue to trick ourselves to say that we are all equal. We are not. When they go after affirmative action, they're only going after everything that built us. And the people, many of the people that look like me in this room, they're only going after us because of success. Because they're seeing a black contractor that can buy a nice house in Woodmore and afford to take their kids to private school. That's the reality. And that's why they're doing what they're doing. They're saying that we're not qualified when they say DEI. That's what they said at the State of the Union. We're going to knock out DEI. They're saying we're not qualified. But what we know, in the state of Maryland, when they open up the cannabis and they put out the bids, not one black contractor, not one minority-owned contractor got that contract. And the reality is that we are competing, many of us are competing with people with more resources that can put more money together and put a better, not that because they're smarter, because they have access to more capital and more access to resources than we do. What we find in Prince George's County, and even in Charles and Calvert and all of those, when you look at minority-owned business, oftentimes we don't have people in our families that can just put a $300,000 to our business. You look at Jeff Bezos, and they say he made it successful, but it's very helpful when your parents can write you a $300,000 check. Most of us can't. Don't have anybody in our family that can do that. So we've got to go. So that's what we see. Yeah, right. That's what we see in Prince George's County. We have a lot of businesses that open, but they're on the brink. They don't have much money saved. They don't have a lot of capital, and they come to us for capital. And we are even stretched and be able to provide them with capital. If someone comes into money and decides to build their business, that's usually the only money they have to build that business. And if one thing happens, they're out. We have a lot of businesses that have closed during COVID because one thing happened. And they were able, and without a couple months of business coming in, they either needed to take a PPP loan to stay afloat or they were out. And we saw a lot of businesses close, and we've been blamed for that. So many people say the county is not helping our business. The reality is that we don't have the resources to help our business. That's why we need all these programs, MBE, DBE, all of those, to give our folks the opportunity to compete with people that they don't have the same resources as them. And if you don't give them that opportunity, they simply will not be able to get it. And that cuts us up from generational wealth. That means we can't pay tuition for our kids to go to college. That means that we can't put resources so that our kids can get opportunities so they can take over the next, take the baton and run with it. So I would say that we are under attack. And I said, as a council member, it's really hard to fight these things as a council because you're limited. But at the federal level, we need to go hard. And what the Democratic Party needs to understand is that we need them stomping their feet and shaking the table and shaking the building. Because at this point, your folks this is not even business as usual where you can just kind of give talking points. This is all out war against your community. Because right now, I've got thousands of people who've been unemployed, who can't find a job that even paid them even close to what they were paid for before. I've got business contractors. Our stress at the county level is that we have so many businesses that have lost huge contracts with the federal government, and they're looking to us to fill it, and we don't have the money. We can tell them, look, you got how much billion? You had whatever $1 million that you had. You're not going to get that. We don't even have the money to give you even 30% of what you got at the federal level. And we only have limited opportunity. But every local government is stressing here because everybody is under. People are saying they're going to go under. They're living off of savings. And if they don't have savings, they're going to go under, seriously. So I feel that I have to step up and fight for my community. And that's what I decided to do. But I would tell you all here, this is, when we're talking about the business community, it's serious what we're going through. And frankly, I just got a call this morning with a business that just lost a contract with the federal government. Mm-hmm. They haven't been paid since October.
Wow. Mike?
Good morning, everyone.
I made this since I knew
morning.
Since I knew had politicians on the speak. I actually put some leeway into the schedule.
I just want to make sure it's still morning time. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kelly Michael Williams. I am ANC commissioner here in D.C. I'm chairman of the Advisory Neighborhood Commission. Been there for 4 years. I come to the table as a candidate for delegate here in D.C. I ran in 24, finished second to Delegate Norton, was trying to kind of stave off where we are right now. My background, as with Rodney Slater, I was homeless in this city with my 3-year-old son. Had just left the White House administration, was doing well, went through a bad situation, went to go look for some government services just to kind of make it over the weekend or make it over the hump. And I was told point blank that we don't service men. That was 19 years ago. They still don't service men. So instead of going at the federal level, I figured that, well, I can get some federal dollars. City level, I can get some federal dollars and create a program and do something. I've been advocating for homelessness for about the last 15 years. I sit on the board of Covenant House. I sleep out every year. I raise money for it because at that level, I'm dealing with the youth homelessness, which is never even talked about. You don't even see them on the street. You do, but you don't necessarily know it. And so I've been advocating for that for, like I said, over 10 years. But what brought me to this point was the fact that I didn't see, with all due respect, anyone on the Hill, and not necessarily our delegate, dealing with the homeless issue, dealing with the affordability in housing. Because everyone keeps saying they're building affordable housing. And that's a fallacy in the sense that it's affordable to who? And building more property in D.C., because we're not in Iowa or Kentucky where you can have a sprawling ability to build more to lower the cost because you'll have more inventory. We don't have that. So here it's changed the height requirement to let it go up 3 more floors past the Washington Monument, and then we'll get some affordability. But the reality is that most developers are only going to give you 10, maybe 15% of the inventory in that property in the first place to be affordable. And then the affordability comes from the area median income. And that area median income in the District of Columbia is $170,000. So you tell me, who's going to afford that? I live in Southeast, Congress Heights. I purchased my home there for $400,000. I came to Southeast and gentrified Southeast because now the properties they're building are $600,000, and it's not even as big as my house. These are townhouses and condos. So there's no longer that build the American dream like my grandparents and parents told me. You start out with an apartment, then you get a condo, then you get the townhouse, and then you get the single family. You can't do that in D.C. So if someone's renting right now, they don't have the ability to save. They don't have the ability to do what they need to do so they can actually then be able to get to that condo or townhouse. Because if they're not in that position of wealth or even in that position of savings and recognizing that when they started their good government job that they should have put the maximum in their TSP to use it, but because no one had ever educated us and told us, max that out because it's pre-tax. So now you're not going to have to worry about that take-home pay. That take-home pay is going to be about the same. We'll do that. So my idea in my race is to change the AMI. HUD determines what the AMI is. So as a federal congressional member, I'm going to go to HUD and tell them for the District of Columbia, it needs to be based on D.C. Because I don't know how many of you, most of you are in here from Maryland. You from D.C.? Okay. So D.C.'s AMI is based on 5 counties in Maryland and 5 counties in Virginia. It's not even based on the 8 wards of D.C. So that's how we get to 170,000 because you got the 5 richest counties in Virginia, which is also 5 richest counties in the country, and then the 5 wealthiest counties in Maryland, which are also some of the wealthiest counties in the country. But it's not based on the 8 wards of D.C. So why am I paying my rent based on somebody else's income? And why hasn't my city council member, my mayor, or my delegate done something about it? I took care of my mother for 13 years. She had Alzheimer's and dementia. And the one thing I do know is that our Medicaid and Medicare system, which allowed me to do that, but Congress decided to take $1.1 billion out of D.C.'s budget, their taxpayer money, not federal money. And I'm hearing crickets on anybody standing up talking about give me my money back. But we're saying, oh, we're having meetings. Well, I need to hear those meetings and have those meetings in public so I know that you're actually having them. Because anybody can tell me what they're doing behind closed doors, but I'm not seeing it. And so some of the things that I'm looking at is healthcare, housing, and home rule. I want to change home rule, the Home Rule Act, Section 740, which allows the president to put the National Guards on the streets. I want to give that power to the mayor so it can be looked at just as a state, as the governor, and be able to use that as leverage to move. Because until I agree with Warma, we are under attack. It's no question about it. But the problem is we was under attack last time, and we didn't move. We was under attack before that, and we didn't move. And we was on attack before that in 2016, and we didn't move. Quite frankly, we was on attack before 2016, and we didn't move. So the issue is this. We got to move. And we got to stop sitting around talking about somebody else doing something and step up. My father used to always tell me, nothing beats a failure but a try. And then my mother would always say to me, if you don't see somebody leading, then maybe it's time for you to step up and lead. And that means everybody in every category across this country. We have to stand up and do something. From small business, because Kevin, his policies and a lot of stuff that we do twice a year we do this here? Twice a year, every year, we come in here and we talk about the different policies, we talk about the different disparities in the businesses, the different disparities in everything we're doing. And we go out of here and we feel good, but we have to not just go back to our domiciles and our areas. We got to start speaking up and doing something. Because those 214 test tube babies over there in that house do not stand up for anything. And I'm so sick and tired of them. And then we got 8 test tube babies in the Senate who's going to hold out for 40 darn days and then come back and say, we can't do it no more. Excuse me, I know it's on camera, but what the hell were you doing it in the first place for? If that's the case, you should have just let it go the first 10 days, 10 minutes. But then you're going to get on national TV and say, we just can't fight Donald Trump. We tried. His butt should have been impeached. Recalled, I mean. Because if you're going to sit up on national TV and say you held out for 40 days, but somehow you just could not do it any longer and you just can't beat the migrant that's in the house who's calling other people a migrant because he's intellectually deficient and so insecure that my 6-year-old could do something better than he can. I ain't got a 6-year-old. We have a problem. So I'm stepping up because while my son and I were homeless and 18, 19 years later, we're not, that homeless 3-year-old is now a graduate from NYU, as well as a graduate from Beckwith University in London with a master's degree in organizational psychology. So what we need to do is maybe suffer a little bit because we've all done it, but we passed that part. We have to act and move. It was only through the grace of God that I was able to get from where I was to get where I am now. I too own a restaurant. It's the Strand, by the way, in Ward 7, Deanwood. Go by. We have the best brunch in town. But I'm also a CBE here in D.C. because we don't have a DBE program. It's a Certified Business Enterprise program. Why is it not a minority business enterprise program? I don't know. And why hasn't it happened? I don't know. But as soon as I get up to Congress, I'm going to create one, and we're going to have one. Because seemingly the city council and the mayor doesn't want to do one. But even with that, we still need to fight because 8A is gone. And the way they water it down, it's going to be even worse. So we have to be able to create and collectively come together and do something. So with that, let me go back because I know he has some more questions he wants to put to us. But folks, it's time to wake up. You know, if you need some cold water, I'll get it for you, but it's time to wake up.
Thanks, Mike. So, go ahead.
I wanted to ask a question and make a statement that from a business perspective and looking at this, and I'm glad that you said that we need to take action, because I feel like so many of us don't realize that when you're in a competitive capitalist environment, they're going to take away whatever makes you competitive.
Right.
And so that is what has happened. They said this group, no, we're going to take away whatever makes them competitive.
Right.
So now we got to come back together, and Keegan knows where I'm going with this, and come up with some new plans and some new strategies so that we can figure out how to be competitive with what it is that we're doing. But again, it's going to require us to step up. In some cases, we may be able to go back and get some of that funding back, but no matter who gets in office, they're looking at it like, well, we just reduced the competition. And I don't see us being able to go back and get certain things back. We got to step up and recreate. So
I think it's not so much going back and recreating the wheel. It's just rolling that damn wheel down the hole. If you get with me, I get with him, you get with her, and all four of us go and try to get it, we can do it. As opposed to you just going out there by yourself, and now you competing against me and keep competing. Okay, fine, you get a $100,000 contract. All right, well then if you're not able to service that contract, you lose it. But now if you get four of us together, now you get 25,000. That's 25,000 more than you had. It's not the whole 100, but now collectively four of us can go back and we can go get another one, and maybe it's 500,000. Now you got your 100,000, and we all got our 100,000. It's about us moving together and creating it as opposed to competing against one another. If we create a consortium, when I worked at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and the black farmers got their got their lawsuit, I went down to Mississippi and I told them, I said, look, the most you guys have gotten is maybe $20,000 or $30,000 a year. Right now, they're about to give you $50,000, allegedly. Give you $50,000. Now, if all 100 of you, 150 of you come together, you put that in the bank, and now you create another consortium, and you leverage that 100,000. Pay yourself $30,000 a year or $40,000 a year. Lease your farm out because you're too old to work it anyway. And now you got somebody paying your rent and mortgage on the farm, and you still collecting $30,000 that you got from the interest and from which you already invested, from the money that you leveraged against it. We don't understand and think smart. We sit out here and think like, well, I got to get it all. No, you don't have to get it all. Get a piece of it and let the piece grow. Like I think I heard somebody say living off dividends. We don't live off dividends. Right? We don't understand what dividends are. But that's what we have to do. We got to live off the interest of what we're doing as opposed to living off the actual people who are wealthy don't earn money. They live off of capital gains. And one thing that a lot of business people going to hate me for this, and I'm one of them. Why are the working people paying less than the investors? But everybody on Capitol Hill is talking about we want to work for the working people. But we aren't lowering the working people's taxes. So I'm going to take the working people's taxes and make it the capital gains taxes. So if capital gains is 8%, working people's taxes is 8%. That's where we got to take it. Now, it may not pass, but I'm going to fight like hell and make it public because you can't say that you're going to work for working people, but you're going to let the people who are investing their money pay less taxes than the people actually out there working for their money. That makes no sense to me.
It's another way of helping us to be more competitive, and that's where I'm going with it.
Exactly.
Well, I also have some suggestions. One thing I will say is that we haven't put a full agenda together of how we actually compete in this whole the world that we're in now. Let me just say this. There's something about the fight in 1960s that was a permanent change for us. And that was changing the laws, using the Supreme Court. And you remember, Brown v. Board, all of those were test cases. They purposely picked cases that would change the law. The issue is the law is no longer on our side. That is the way we compete. Any other way, we can try to work all those things together, but the laws are what saved us. That Civil Rights Act, that Brown v. Board was a game changer. All other things could have put through. So he mentioned something, but I want to explain to you what's going on. The reason why those MBE programs, we have the same thing where we say county based now. Right. So you have to do that because because of rulings at the Supreme Court, the minute you say anything that's race based, then you lose the opportunity that whole program could be challenged. So that is why now what we need to do is put an overall, when somebody says put together the black agenda or that's where we need to do. We need a test case to set the standard so that we can change that standard, because the only way we can compete, we can pool our money together. But the reality is that those programs that have been ripped off, they were successful. They opened the door for us. They gave us the opportunity. Like I told you, in the state of Maryland, when they put that bid out without any type of consideration of minority business contract, no, not one minority got it. The minute they had to do it, that's when we got to the table. That is our best option at this point. We cannot pretend that we can play in the same field with people that have way more resources. No matter how much we pool our money, it will not happen. You cannot compete. So what we have to do is we have to know our strength and we have to embrace it. So what? If the laws are helping you, use them. Trump used it for himself. We have to use it for...
What if the laws aren't on our side?
Well, the laws are not on our side because they've changed. Brown v. Board opened the door. Now the actual Supreme Court cases are working against us. That's why we need to actually look at ways to increase. Right. So here's the thing. What are we doing as a community to push Congress to make that change in the Constitution so we can increase the justices, so we can help us? Even when we talk about when he talked about the bills that would make sure we're fair share, that investors are paying the same as regular people. We oftentimes don't take that legislation and push it ourselves. We should be cheering that, because at the end of the day, we don't want everybody to say, okay, I could be Jeff Bezos, so I'm not going to push the people's agenda, increasing all of these things because I could be Jeff Bezos. No. At this point, most of us are not Jeff Bezos. So we need to actually push for progressive taxes, making sure everybody pays their fair share. That should be number one on our list, because most of us in this room are not at the top 1%. So I'm saying I want to push that, but we need the whole community to push it together. Make sure that we get these bills on this. In fact, a lot of these programs, codify it. You can't, if a program was within SBA that's not that's not a bill that's passed, not legislation, it could be changed within the administration. So don't let another administration, when we have the power, let's make sure all the laws benefit us, and we hold people accountable, and we tell them, if you don't, you will not stay here.
So we're over time, but I've got two people who have questions, so I'm going to try to get those two questions. Thaddeus?
I just wanted to say that I really love what Michael was saying about the collective cooperative model. I believe we have jumped into this colonial capitalistic mindset.
100%.
We as a people have always been cooperative, and that's how we survive. I do believe we have more than enough resources to survive. When we started chasing that other side, that's where we lost our way.
100%.
We still have generate enough revenue amongst ourselves. They don't want us in those communities and those spaces anyway. We can create our own cooperative model. We can finance our own stuff. We can keep track of it.
Hold on, Mike, before you, I'm going to let this other question. Mike, before you answer. Okay. So Denise, you had a question? Then both questions out. You can speak louder.
Is it on? Hi, I just want to say that it appears that all the materials that I read is like focusing that you're on Texas 29 or TX 29, that area.
No.
I'm Michael.
Oh,
Rob is not here. Rob's not here.
oh, okay, all right, that's the one I want. I had a, okay. All right, then, I guess I'll just wait.
So you guys both can answer this question.
That's, I agree. I think that historically we have had to do things collectively. And I think that going back to that model will actually allow us to do exactly what Wawa is saying. Walla is saying in terms of being able to change. Now, 100%, we have to change the laws and policies. 100%, we have to get those on the books. But the way we have to do that is collectively. We have to build it together and move. Because as they're stripping us, as the young lady said, they're stripping us to take everything away to stop us from being able to compete. We got to show that just like we did before, we don't necessarily need you, right, for us. We got 42 million people in this country. We got to go back to, if we got to go back to the drawing board of us being a Tulsa, of us being, you know, in our own area, in our own city, if we have to take over Prince George's County and do that, if we have to take over D.C. and do that, wherever we have to take over Wilmington, we may have to do that and go back to that drawing board so that we can pull it together, so that we can get some legislators in, we can get some people on the Supreme Court, but we also have to advocate and force it. We cannot sit back and not advocate. We don't have a lobbying apparatus as African Americans. We don't have the resources in the lobbying space as African Americans. Our nonprofits really don't have the resource to lobby for us. They may advocate for us, but those are two different things. Because we're not putting money behind what we're doing. If we put money behind and votes behind, it's a game changer. And those are the two things that we don't do. In my ward alone, Ward 8, we got 110,000 people, residents. We only got 42,000 registered, and we only got 6,000 people voting. And that's why we only got one darn grocery store in our ward. Ward 7 is the same. But you go up to Ward 3, they're voting. Ward 2, they're voting. Ward 1, they're voting. That's what we have to do.
Kelly,
We have to put that there and make them understand.
Yeah,
Let me just say this, and I just want to clear, and I'm not in a disagreement. I'm just in Prince George's County. So we are on hands on the ground of what we see happening. We have tried every way to create a collective for Black businesses and everything, to create the Black Wall Street, right? That thing. The reality is that we're competing with forces around us that are coming, that have more resources, that don't look like us, tearing us apart. And the reality, and it's a real thing. So I'm just saying that
I want you to keep talking. So I'm going to say one thing. What you just said makes sense. Black Wall Street got destroyed. So did Tulsa. I mean, all this place got destroyed. So that
this is Prince George's County is the test bed, because the Black folks have left DC. Right? DC is no longer the place that I grew up in. I grew up in Southeast. It doesn't look anything the way it is now. The reality is that they did the same thing in DC. The Black wealth was there. Black people started getting together under Marion Barry. The forces came in, snatched it. I'm just saying, let's talk real. This is, we can talk in our head about the collective power, but the reality is that when the forces come in and you've got people that are living on limited resources and have limited opportunity for business, they run. They go with the forces. So we have tried every which way to try to get our people to stick together. But the reality is that when those forces came in and tried to divide us, they succeeded. So what we have to do is we need a two-point approach. We can build the collective, we could push the collective, but we need the laws on our side to help us so that we can put the collective. At the end of the day, we had to change from MBE to county base, right? So now people are looking for other ways and leaving and walking away from the Black sort of collective to partner with people outside of our groups because they feel like they might not get the opportunity. A lot of our Black businesses are going under because people no longer see the value in partnering with them because they don't get what they got. So they're leaving our folks, and our folks are struggling and coming to us for help. At this point, We need the laws on our side. We need to do the two-part approach. He's right. We don't have lobbyists. We don't have someone, when someone says what is, and of course there's more than just black people in the room, but when someone comes to a black person and say, what is the black agenda? We don't have a clear one. We haven't put that in place. And to be honest, that has impacted us because, again, when our folks were struggling in the 1950s and 60s, they put an approach together. They realized this act is going to help us. This legislation at the idea at the Supreme Court is going to get, and here's how we're going to get it. We've got to get back to that, and we don't have it right now.
I think it's multifactorial.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like it's got to be both. I do believe in the collect. Right. Yeah.
Both.
Because we haven't pushed for the laws that benefit us. That's why we need.
They are just obliterating and not paying attention. They don't care about the law. The law does not matter right now. I'm just saying, how do we make
I understand because we have, again, there's two prongs too. We need a judiciary that will hold up the laws that's in place. And then we need to have the legislation that will even follow up to the law breaking, which we don't have. We don't have the protections right now. So what I will say is that what we have to, even when he talked about AMI, at this point, we have a lot of our people that can't afford to live. And we don't have any threshold of AMI to make sure that we require a certain threshold so that our people could have housing. Even that we don't have. So I will say that's why we need to shake up Congress, put people in place and say, here is our agenda and it must be done. Push them to the point, because the problem is I'm in a thing where you've got APAC coming into my race. APAC is probably coming into your, but it's coming into mine, and they've got their agenda. And their agenda means billions of dollars leaving our country now to go help them. And they are owning the people there. So why are people sending $3 billion plus to Israel? Because they have their people who look like us doing it because they pay for their elections. It's time for us to kind of do the same, to shake folks up and say, because we might not have millions of dollars to put into a race, but what we have is the people.
So I'm going to ask you both one question to that end, and then we'll close it out. So the question is, everything you said about being aggressive, would you be willing to be the vote that shuts down the government until you get what you want for your people?
That's what we got to do. We got to make folks pay and actually say, look, if you're losing that money every day, then you have to make a difference, not just for TV, not just for videos, not just for talking points, but this is for, we need to have our agenda straight. We need to make sure what's in law, anything that gives opportunity for minority business needs to be on the books. No questions asked. And if you don't pass it, we're shutting the government down, because we need opportunity and we won't survive, because at the end of the day, other groups are doing it and people are moving in their direction. And I see it now that I'm in this race. I'm sitting here saying all this money coming, and you see, they say crypto is out here putting $2-3 million into each race so that they can actually get what they want, and they're getting it. And we are not owning the people around us. Remember, the ancestors that put the things that got us in place, they didn't come with money. They said, if you want to get voted, if you want to get the votes, you have to do this. Despite the money, and they were outspent by everybody. They didn't have any money. They didn't even have the money now that we could put in today to races, and they would do it. We need our people. If our black elected officials are taking money to give $3 billion to Israel, why are they not putting legislation forward that can save us?
Mike, same question to you. It's up to you. Where do you come? It'll be a public vote. It'll be public
Absolutely right. Okay. Okay. Is Reverend Slater here? Because last time I got chastised for saying my vernacular. Absolutely. We have to stand. I'm in this race on conviction, principles, and values. I'm either going to stand or I'm going to fall, but I'm going to stand and fall on those convictions, those values that I have. Whether I raise all the money I need to have or not. People say, well, you're not raising a whole lot of money. Well, that's because you haven't actually given me any. But
It's always the case.
that's not the point. I didn't run for the money. I ran for the principle. I ran for the conviction. I ran for the values. So absolutely, we have to do that. I'm disappointed in Hakeem Jeffries and a lot of stuff that he has done and hasn't done. There is no backbone in our caucus, and we are capitulating to this $300 million that is not benefiting us. And that in and of itself alone is enough reason for you to say, hell no, I'm not taking no more. I'm not doing it. Because you're selling your people out. You're selling your community out. Now, she brought it up, but if we look at it, Israel got free health care, free education, free everything from our money. But everybody over here tells us we can't get free health care. We can't have free education. Help me understand. We got a bigger budget. We got more money. I don't understand that. And one of my things is free education for DC high school seniors at UDC and a pathway back to the jobs through the businesses in the District of Columbia. Have the District of Columbia businesses put a 1% tax on them to pay for the education, give them a 2% write-off. So they get 100% back, plus they get a track of fluid, educated a workforce coming back. So now that eliminates them saying, I can't find any qualified people. You got a college graduate who's out there who can run. So don't tell me that. And they pay back their services by 3 years of working, just like I think they would Job Corps and everything else. 3 years working for them, and then they get to go wherever they want to go. I'm like, come on now, people. This is like real simple, easy stuff that works.
Well,
It's a proven track record.
I hate to interrupt you guys.
I know you do.
We're over time, but you guys are great, so thank you very much. I hope you all win.
Yeah, Bill had a question. Bill?
You have to ask him after.